So we're getting a late start all around. Here we go. This is the class on the hymns of Swami Vivekananda, and we'll start with our opening prayer. Okay, after you finish passing out, okay, opening prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitam Astu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may we be protected together. May we be nourished together. May we acquire strength together. May our learning shine forth in our lives. May we not find fault with one another. Om, peace, peace, peace. So the premise of the class is that we gain a new insight into the personality of Swami Vivekananda and his teachings through studying some of the poems and hymns that he wrote. And particularly with regard to Sri Ramakrishna, he did not speak about Sri Ramakrishna in public, except for twice, once in Wimbledon and once in New York. And he talked something about Sri Ramakrishna's life and message. But what was his own view of Sri Ramakrishna? That he doesn't tell us in public. He really was preaching the universal message of Vedanta. But he wrote, as we know, several hymns to Sri Ramakrishna. Two are most well known. The first one, Khandana Bhava Bandhana, breaker of this world's chain. And the second in Sanskrit, Om Hring Ritang, which we sing here every night. And in these two hymns, which are sung at the time of evening prayer, we find that Swami Vivekananda presents Sri Ramakrishna as a world teacher, an avatar, if you will. He never would insist that anyone accept this view, but it's clear that this was his own view. His own personal view was that Sri Ramakrishna was a special manifestation of the divine in human form, a world teacher, as it were, who has the power to illumine us, to grant spiritual illumination, to break our chains, as it were, to release us from the bondage of samsara, of coming back again and again, of being caught by our own desires, caught in our own ignorance of our true nature, caught in our own ignorance of the divine. And he also presents Sri Ramakrishna in the second hymn as not only the goal, but also the way. Because in Om Hring Ritang, this line repeats again and again, therefore, thou alone art my refuge, O friend of the lowly. So he presents this path of seeking refuge in the divine, particularly in the Guru, Sri Ramakrishna, as a way of proceeding towards the fulfillment of our spiritual life. Now, there's one more hymn that he composed to Sri Ramakrishna, composed around the same time in November of 1898, which is not so well known, but it's in several recordings and it's beautiful. And it's sometimes it's called Ramakrishna stotram, I guess, but it's known because it begins with the word Ācaṇḍālā. So it's often referred to by that. And it has two parts. There are 4 verses. The first 2 verses are sung without any rhythm, very slowly, beautifully, and very movingly. And the second 2 verses are sung with, can be sung with drums and cymbals and all of that. And it's a tremendously inspiring hymn, those of you who know it. And in this hymn, he describes Sri Ramachandra in the first verse, and describes Sri Krishna in the second verse, and finally suggests that person, that great soul, is now born as Ramakrishna. So this takes us back to Swami Vivekananda, the Narendranath, when he was serving Sri Ramakrishna at the Kashipur garden house. And Sri Ramakrishna apparently used to tell his intimate disciples that he who was Rama and he who was Krishna is now born as Ramakrishna. He would not proclaim this to public, to the general public, to people who came to him, only to his intimate disciples, those who were the chosen ones to bear his message. He used to say this. And Swami Vivekananda was not one to accept something just because someone tells it to him. He had to know it for himself. He had to see it, to experience it for himself in order to accept something. So Swami Vivekananda, in that time Narendranath, of course, Sri Ramakrishna was on his deathbed. It was a few days before he left the body. And the thought passed through Narendranath's mind, if now, in this condition, you can proclaim yourself, you can assert your divinity, then I can accept it. Sri Ramakrishna immediately opened his eyes and looked at him and said, still you doubt. Still you doubt. He who is Rama, he who is Krishna, is now born as Ramakrishna, but not in your Vedantic sense. He added that, not in your Vedantic sense, because from the viewpoint of Vedanta, all are embodiments of the divine. Our true nature is divine. Our true nature is Satchit Ācaṇḍālā, infinite bliss, infinite consciousness, existence itself. And so from that standpoint, there's no difference between Rama and Krishna and you and me. We're all embodiments of the divine. But from the standpoint of this relative world, we are clearly given varying amounts of power. The power that you have may be greater than the power that I have, but it's all much less than the power that a great world teacher has. The great world teachers have this power to awaken us from the sleep of ignorance. And that is the greatest power that there is. So we see that in great teachers like Jesus, like Buddha, like Krishna, like Ramakrishna. That power, just by a look or a touch, to awaken people from their ignorance. Like Jesus, just saying to some fishermen, follow me. And what did they do? They dropped their nets and followed him. That kind of power. We don't have that power. So that's the difference. So let's turn to the hymn, and we did pass out some sheets. It's the last hymn on this, I think on the inside of the fold there, which gives the words. And maybe we should, just to give you a sense of the mood of it, I'll sing this first verse. I'll try to sing it. It's hard to sing it well. Ācaṇḍālā pratihātarayo yasya prema pravaho lokātito pyahanajaho lokakalyana margam Trailokyepya pratima mahima janaki pranabandho bhaktya jnanam vritavaravapuh sitaya yohi Rama. All right, it starts with this idea of love, that God is love, that the great world teachers are manifestations of tremendous love. So this is, let's look at this first line and break down the words. We have Ācaṇḍālā pratihata rayaha. So Ācaṇḍālā, Ācaṇḍālā is a person who is cast out of society. Someone who is not in, it specifically refers to those people who work in the cremation grounds in traditional Hindu society, and they are untouchables. No one wants to come near them because it's considered that they are impure people. Well, of course, from the Vedantic standpoint, we know this is nonsense, but that's the traditional idea that there are people. Now, we have the Chandālas in our society too. Go walk down on Hollywood Boulevard and you'll see someone filthy, hasn't had a bath in weeks, sitting on the sidewalk. Do you want to touch that guy? No, we don't want to touch him. There are Chandālas. Down to the Chandāla, down to those who are cast out of society. Ācaṇḍālā, apratihata, that means unobstructed. Pratiha is like an obstruction. So apratihata, unobstructed, unimpeded. Prema pravaha. Prema is love, that divine love. Pravaha is a flow. So that yasya, whose, so that whose love, whose prema, whose divine love went to for all, who loved everyone, even that guy sitting on Hollywood Boulevard, who we don't want to come close to him, even him, he loved. And it refers to an incident in the life of Sri Rama. This was Guhaka, who was the chief of the untouchables, and became an intimate friend of Rama. So when Rama went to the forest to fulfill the pledge of his father, that's from the Ramayana, and Guhaka was the boatman, wasn't he, who carried him across the river when he's going to and he was so broken, feeling that Rama is going for 14 years of exile, he began to shed tears. And so Guhaka also spent 14 years wearing only bark for clothing and letting his hair grow matted, waiting for Rama to return. And then 14 years had passed, but Rama had not yet come back. And so Guhaka had enough of life. He built his own cremation pyre, and he was about to enter it. And then, of course, Hanuman came to save the situation and told him, no, Rama is coming. Please don't worry, Rama is coming. So soon Ramachandra and Sita arrived, and here's a quote from the scripture. Ramachandra, the compassionate, the source of supreme joy, the gracious, loving Lord of the devotees and the mine of all virtues, embraced his great and dear devotee Guhaka, who was thrilled with joy. The Lord and the servant remained in deep embrace, while tears drenched their bodies. Blessed you are, Guhaka. There was the chant of Jai, Jai, victory, victory from the heavenly abode. So this very touching incident from the Ramayana, when Ramachandra embraces this man who is cast out from society, and yet is the intimate friend of Rama, and Rama has no hesitation in embracing him and holding him in a deep embrace, and so much love that they're both weeping and their tears are drenching their bodies. It's a beautiful image. And if we look at Sri Ramakrishna's life, we see the same. He had that kind of love. He honored the prostitutes. He saw them as embodiments of Divine Mother, and would talk with them also, and stunning the wealthy aristocratic ladies of Calcutta. And in fact, it was quite a interesting quote of Max Mueller, which I don't think I can remember exactly, but the Brahmos criticized Sri Ramakrishna for speaking with prostitutes and other people of low character, and Max Mueller pointed out that he was not alone among the great teachers of the world in this, because all the great world teachers, they don't observe these distinctions that we ordinary human beings observe. So there's the beautiful incident of Rashik, who is the sweeper at the Dakshineshwar Kali temple. He used to sweep the sweep the courtyard, but also his job was to clean the latrines. The sweeper's job is to clean the latrines, and it's a great service for people coming to the Kali temple. But because he had that job, he was considered untouchable. Nobody wants to touch him. And so he had that lowly status. And but he was also a devotee of God. He was a real devotee. His heart longed for God. And he wanted to approach Sri Ramakrishna. He would see him from a distance, but he was always afraid to approach him because of his low status. But he saw others come and mix with him and get his blessings. So he wept much for Sri Ramakrishna's grace. And one day, as Sri Ramakrishna was returning from the Panchavati in a spiritual mood, Rasik saw his chant and he approached him and he bowed at his feet. And he asked him, "What will happen to me?" And he was weeping. And Sri Ramakrishna's heart was very much touched. And he said, he gave him his greatest blessing, "You will see me at the time of death." So he gave him that blessing. Now, what happened? 2 years after Sri Ramakrishna left the body, Rashik became feverish and very ill. And he rejected all medicines. He only accepted the holy water, and which gave him a little energy. Then his fever came down, and he spent his days chanting God's name and praying for grace. And then he asked his family to bring him to his Tulsi grove. He had a little grove where there was a Tulsi plant, the holy Tulsi plant, and he lay there with his rosary in hand, and there he saw Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna came, and he left the body, seeing Sri Ramakrishna. So that's kind of how we see that Swami Vivekananda here is describing the tremendous love of Ramachandra, which is also, we find, reflected in Sri Ramakrishna, that tremendous love for all, because he is a very veritable manifestation of love. So it's like a stream of love which is flowing to everyone, unobstructed, unimpeded. Nothing can block that flow, except maybe for seemingly at least, the blindness of our own eyes, the blindness of our own heart to experience it. Then the next line, lokātītaha, means a transcendental, loka atita, beyond this world. Though you are beyond this world, api, ahaha, a kind of expression of najaho, you did not give up, loka kalyana margam, the path, marga, of doing good, kalyana, to the loka, to the world. So, loka kalyana margam, you never ceased doing good to the world, blessing all people. And Trailokye, in the three worlds. This idea of three worlds, we often find it suggests in the whole universe. The idea of the bhur bhuvasva, the three worlds, the earth, the realm of the sky, and the heavenly realms. It is often used to suggest all existence, wherever we might find ourselves. Your mahima, your glory, his glory is unparalleled, unequaled. Apratima. Apratima is unmatched, unparalleled. And Janaki Pranabandho. Janaki Pranabandha. Janaki means Sita, and this Pranabandha. It's a beautiful way of saying that she is, of course, so devoted to Rama. She loves Rama so much so that her very life, her prana, her very life is merged with his, is completely bound to his, is completely bound to Shiva's bandha, is completely bound, so completely tied. Prana bandha, her life is fully attached to Rama. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that when Sita was in Lanka, the angels of death came for her, but they couldn't find her. There was just her body lying there. Her whole life, her whole mind was fixed on Rama, so they could do nothing. So, Janaki Prana Bandha. Then this last line, Bhaktya Jnanam Vritavaravapu Sitaya Yohi Ramaha. This line is a little difficult to understand, and exactly how Sita becomes bhakti is not entirely clear to me. Bhaktya, by bhakti, by devotion, Jnanam, the knowledge, is covered. Vrita is covered. Varavapu. Vapu is a body. So Rama's body of wisdom, perhaps. Varavapu, his holy body, his supreme, his best body. That supreme body is covered by bhakti in the form of Sita, Sitaya. Let me see, there's an interesting translation in this book of that particular line. He says, your divine being, which is the embodiment of supreme knowledge, is eternally embraced by Sita, who is the embodiment of supreme devotion. That's a nice way of interpreting this last line. Bhaktya jnanam vritavaravapu sitaya yohi ramaha. There are a number of different translations of this hymn, and translations are always, they never quite hit the nail on the head, right? We look at different translations. And of course, Sri Ramakrishna was this also. We think of him as the devotee, right? He starts chanting Divine Mother's name and he starts weeping, and then he enters into samadhi. He's always singing hymns of devotion. How many tears fell from his eyes, how many times his chest became wet with tears. That much love. But inside, Swami Vivekananda pointed out, inside, all Advaita, all non-dual knowledge. So here Swami Vivekananda is suggesting that Sri Rama is also like this, and Sri Ramakrishna also like this, that he is the embodiment of pure knowledge of the infinite, non-dual knowledge, and yet covered with devotion. And this adds a sweetness in the form of Sita. It's interesting. And so though transcending the world, though actually beyond this world, always doing good. So that's this first verse. Let's take up the second verse. Any questions, any comments about this first verse? All right, second verse. Let's sing it. I'll try to sing it a little higher. Stabadhi kritya pralaya kalitam vahavotham mahantam hitva ratrim prakriti sahajam amdhatam istramishram Gitam shantam madhuramapi yaha singhanadam jagarja soyam jata pratita purusho Ramakrishna stvedani. Okay, this is quite a thrilling verse. So this describes first the battle at Kurukshetra, where Sri Krishna is delivering the message of the Gita to Arjuna. And Stabdhi kritya pralaya kalitam vahavotham mahantam. Mahantam, that great tumult which has arisen in the battle, which is, what is it? It is like pralaya. Pralaya kalitam, like pralaya, which is the final dissolution. So it's because the battle is to be tremendous, no? How many thousands of warriors killed on either side. So it's a tremendous battle about to take place at Kurukshetra. And stabdhi kritya, stabdha is like stunned or completely stopped. So quell that terrible tumult arising at the time of the battle is quelled. And hitva ratrim, hitva killed or destroyed the ratrim, the night. What night? The night of ignorance of Arjuna. Prakriti sahajam. Though it's natural, it's a natural ignorance, because we are all we all have that ignorance. Actually, it's inherent in all of us. It's within all of us. Andhata misra mishram. Okay, this is andha, that darkness, that deep darkness. Arjuna was in the deep darkness of ignorance, thinking, not understanding his duty, trying to escape his duty. And we are also in the same condition in that we don't know who we are. Andha, tamisra is actually a division of hell. So it's that darkness, almost like it's like a hell. It's a demon in the dark. And then, so this is obviously describing Sri Krishna, who quelled this tremendous tumult arising from the battle and destroyed that deep, dark night of ignorance of Arjuna and all of us. How? By the third line, Geetam, that song of Shantam, which is bringing peace, and Madhuram, which is so sweet, and yet also which he roared out with with roar of a lion. Singhanadam, Singha is lion. So Singhanadam, the roar of a lion, Jagaraja, he roared it out. So when I sing this line, I always try to sing the word Madhuram apiyaha as sweetly as I can. Madhuram apiyaha. And then I try to give Singhanadam Jagaraja, because he roared it out, right? So that power, on the one hand, this tremendous sweetness, this ineffable love, this peace that passeth understanding, and at the same time, the power to quell the dissolution-like tumult of the battle, and the power to dispel the night of ignorance of everyone. So these two sides, the sweetness, the love, and then the power. Then finally, soyam saha, he now, ayam, this jataha is born. Now is born, prathita purusho, that renowned soul, Ramakrishna. To idani means now, in the present. In the present, idani, now is born. Saha, ayam, jataha, born, prathita, that renowned Purusha, that renowned soul, Ramakrishna Stidani. So let's see how this book translates these. He who was Krishna, who quelled the tumult, terrible like the sound of cosmic destruction arising from the great battle of Kurukshetra, who destroyed the dreadful night of primeval ignorance of Arjuna, and who roared with the voice of a lion, the sweet and calming Gita. That renowned soul is now born as Sri Ramakrishna. So we have these two beautiful verses which are chanted in that haunting melody, drawn out melody, and then the hymn completely changes into a kind of glorious what shall we say, a thrilling, a thrilling cry of joy. Glory, glory to the man God, the divine man. The chorus, which repeats itself again and again, is Naradeva Deva, Jaya Jaya Naradeva. So Nara means man, and Deva means God, the shining one. And here it's Naradeva, Deva, Jaya Jaya Naradeva. Glory, glory, victory, victory to the Naradeva, that one who is a man, but who is also divine, who is a God man, who is a man God, who is like that. So how many of you have heard this song, actually? How many of you know it? Okay, so most of you don't. So let's I'll sing that verse, the second verse again, and then, or the last line of the second verse, and then we'll go into the Naradev so you can hear what it sounds like. Gitam shantam madhuramapi yaha sinhanadam jagarja soyam jataf pratita purusho Ramakrishna stvedani Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Shakti Samudra Samuthatarangam Darshita Prema Vijrimbhitarangam Sankshaya Rakshasanashamahastram Yami Gurum Sharanam Bhavavaidam Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva. So you can feel that the power is completely different. Power that comes here. Actually, when we sing it, we'll repeat each line twice, but for the sake of time, I just shortened it. All right. Shakti Samudra. Shakti is power, that infinite power. Samudra, ocean, an ocean of power. Samutta tarangam. Taranga is a wave. Samutta is a wave has arisen on the ocean of Shakti. Here, Shakti, what is the ocean of Shakti? Sri Ramakrishna used to say that when he thinks of the divine as inactive, as the impersonal principle, the absolute, he calls it Brahman. But when he thinks of the divine as manifesting this world, then he calls that same reality as Shakti, as power. So it's actually a name of the divine mother, conceived of as infinite power to manifest this universe. And that Shakti is working through all of us. Everything, everywhere, anything that moves, there we have a manifestation of that Shakti. And that is Divine Mother. So here we have this image of this infinite ocean of Shakti. And on this ocean, a wave has arisen. And of course, Sri Ramakrishna is that wave. And let me read a little quote from a letter Vivekananda wrote to one of his brother disciples, or to some of his brother disciples. Arise, arise, a tidal wave is coming. Onward, men and women down to the Ācaṇḍālā. All are pure in his eyes. Onward, onward, there is no time to care for name or fame, or mukti or bhakti. We shall look to these some other time. Now in this life, let us infinitely spread his lofty character, his sublime life, his infinite soul. This is the only work. There is nothing else to do. Wherever his name will reach, the veriest worm will attain divinity, nay, is actually attaining it. You have got eyes, and don't you see it? So this kind of faith Swamiji had in his master. He gives only hints of this in some of his letters and in these hymns, that this wave of Shakti is a tremendous wave. And that is how these great world teachers, they come, and they're so quiet. If we look at Sri Ramakrishna's life, how many disciples did he have? A few dozen. Who knew about him? Well, probably a few thousand people in Calcutta had heard about him because they had he was written about in the Brahmo newspaper, and people knew that he was, many people knew him as that mad Brahmin of Dakshineshwar. Be careful, don't send your kids there, you'll make them crazy. And yet, see how many people know the name of Ramakrishna. All over India, now gradually becoming known all over the world as the great prophet of harmony, as great prophet of the harmony of religions, and of the reality of the divine, that God is true, that the divine is true. Well, how do we know? Well, Sri Ramakrishna says so. But not only he says so, he says, yes, I can show you, you also can see. And he gives us the recipe, how to see. So that power that is unleashed by the great world teachers, it flows down through their teachers, and now flowing through all of us. And we who are members of Vedanta society, or we who are students of Vedanta, who are trying to cultivate a little devotion for Sri Ramakrishna, we are also part of that wave, and that his power also is flowing through us as we go forward in spiritual life and share our understanding with others. So that tidal wave of Sri Ramakrishna, he's the wave, that taranga on the Shakti Samudra, the ocean of power. And at the same time, darshita prema vijrimbita rangam. Here it's funny because both words end in tarangam, but actually it's a wave is taranga, but here it's vijrimbita rangam. Sanskrit, the words get all tied together, so it's one long word. Darshita showed, prema, divine love again. Vijrimbita, manifested or displayed. Rangam, a play. Rangam is a play. So a nice translation of this would be something like he who is a wave rising in the ocean of Shakti, who has made manifest the play of love divine. And if we think of Sri Ramakrishna's life, how much he showed, on the one hand, devotion to the divine through all his hymns and his, as I was mentioning, the weeping and the ecstasy, and how many different ways he worshipped the divine. When he worshipped Sri Rama, he started thinking of himself as Hanuman, and he started jumping around like a monkey, and he would sit on the branches of trees and eat fruits. He threw himself into loving God as Hanuman loved Sri Rama. And when he was loving Sri Krishna, he would dress himself in a sari like the gopis and feel like he's one of the gopis loving Sri Krishna. And people couldn't tell that he wasn't a man. His movements became like a woman. He seemed perfectly like a woman. And of course, his love for Divine Mother as a child, an infant or young child of Divine Mother, depending for everything on his mother. So he showed all these different plays, as it were, these different plays of prema, plays of divine love, showing us how many different ways there are to taste the love of God. So it's beautiful. And then this is, which is my favorite phrase in the hymn, this third one, Sangshaya Rakshasa Nasha Mahastram. So the different avatars in the Hindu idea, they generally came and they killed the monsters, right? They killed the demons. Rama had to kill so many different demons in the forest. And Sri Krishna also killed various demons, the Rakshasas. And so we could ask, well, what Rakshasa did Sri Ramakrishna kill? Now, what were the Rakshasas? Rakshasas are the monsters actually that live on human flesh. So they destroy us, they destroy humans, these Rakshasas. And what Rakshasa did Sri Ramakrishna come to destroy? We don't see anything like that. Well, here's the Rakshasa. It's the Samshaya Rakshasa. Samshaya is doubt. The demon of doubt. That human flesh eat destroying monster of doubt. Doubt in the verity of spirit. That we can also call as materialism. Rank materialism. This world is all there is. That's all we know. And there's nothing else. So eat, drink, and be merry as best as you can. And if you can take advantage of others to enjoy more, do it. Because this is all there is. And when you die, that's it. It's over. It's a deeply nihilistic, actually, ultimately, and leads to a feeling of complete pointlessness. It's destroying our world and it's destroying humanity, this doubt in the verity of spirit. Now we can say most people believe in God, but how do they act? They act still in this way, this idea that actually matter is what matters. And so here's the Samshaya Rakshasa Nasha Mahastram, the great weapon, the Mahastram, Maha, great, Astram, Mahastram, great weapon, to Nasha, to destroy this Samshaya Rakshasa, this demon of doubt. So I often feel like if doubts come to my mind, and doubts will come. Sri Ramakrishna says, until one has realized, doubts do come. Doubts will come until one has experienced the divine directly. So if doubts come, we remember Sri Ramakrishna. We remember how not only was he continually immersed in spiritual ecstasy, in direct communion with the divine, but he could grant that experience to his disciples. And we have someone like Swami Vivekananda, who was so dedicated to truth, who would never tell a lie, who when he arrived at Dakshineshwar a few minutes before the appointed time, he waited outside the grounds of the temple. Why? Because he said he would come at, maybe it was 4 o'clock, he said he would come at, say, 4 o'clock, and it was 3:55. Well, if he entered the grounds at 3:55, he'd be a liar, because he said he'd be there at 4. So he waited until 4 o'clock and entered the grounds. That person who was so dedicated to truth, and who was so reluctant to accept anything that someone told him unless he had experienced it himself, he himself said, Sri Ramakrishna touched me and granted me this experience of the infinite. So his life is, just thinking of his life, thinking of how, say, we know on that January 1st, 1886, how he touched maybe a dozen or a dozen and a half of his disciples and granted them all that spiritual awakening. That kind of power, that removes our doubt. When we can reflect on that, we think, yes, after all, the materialists are wrong after all. So that is why Sri Ramakrishna is the Samshaya Rakshasa Nasha Mahastram. And then this fourth part of the verse, which repeats in the last verse, Yami Gurum Sharanam Bhavavaidyam. Yami Gurum Sharanam Bhavavaidyam. I go to the Guru and take shelter in the Guru. Sharanam is that, we find it also in Om Hringritang, Tvameva Sharanam, thou art my only refuge, thou art my only place of shelter. So here, Yami, I go for refuge in the Guru, who is Bhava Vaidyam. A Vaidya is a physician. The traditional Ayurvedic physicians are called the Vaidyas. And he's the Bhava Vaidya, the physician of this world. What illness are we suffering from? We have an illness of ignorance. There's so much suffering here. Let's face it, life has a lot of suffering. And the more we start to realize that spirit is true and that we want to find God and we want to see that perfection manifest here, the more we suffer, actually, because there's so much cruelty in this world and so much pain. And then again, even when we get what we want, we're not truly satisfied. We are unable to get real final satisfaction. The Rolling Stones were right, you know? Can't get no satisfaction. You get maybe for a little while, but that creeping dissatisfaction comes again no matter what. So that is this illness of this world, this roga, this bhava roga, and you are, the guru is the bhava vaidyam, the one who awakens us from ignorance, is the true physician, not addressing symptoms, but addressing the root cause. And Swami Vivekananda, in one of his letters to Sister Nivedita, he says, I see clear as daylight that misery is caused by ignorance and nothing else. So ultimately, the root cause of misery is ignorance. And he is the Bhava Vaidyam who cures us of our ignorance. Comments or questions thus far?
Just one.
Yes.
Why do hymns glorify? What is the purpose behind this approach?
Oh, this is from online, is it? You see, in the path of devotion, music is tremendous help. Music has a way of opening our hearts in a way that nothing else can. Vivekananda himself said, music is the highest art. And for those who understand, it is the highest worship. So music has that power to open our hearts. Really, we can say, in one sense, the whole struggle in spiritual life is to open our hearts. Once our hearts truly open, once our love for God really awakens, then we've taken a huge step forward in spiritual life. When our hearts are still closed, it's then that we suffer. It's when our hearts open to the reality of the divine, when we start to feel true love for God, when we start to feel that flow, that tremendous flow which is flowing down, that prema pravaha, flowing down from the world teacher, and we start to get a taste of it here, then we follow that flow and all the way to its source. So that's the point of a hymn like this, is to open our hearts and to inspire us and to meditate on it. If we can memorize a hymn like this, it's not long, it could be memorized, we can deeply meditate on the words also and reflect, contemplate on the meaning, because it's a kind of a transmission coming from Swami Vivekananda about his spiritual master, who is also the Bhava Vaidyam, the physician for this world's illness. All right, last verse. I should have used some kind of tuning fork or something so I would be singing in the same tune. I don't have the perfect pitch, so it's changing each time. Advaya tattva samahita chittam projala bhakti patavrita vritam karma kalevaram adbhuta chishtam yami gurum sharanam bhava vaidhyam naradeva deva jaya jaya naradeva naradeva deva jaya jaya naradeva naradeva deva jaya jaya naradeva. Advaya tattva samahita chittam. We've already actually had this in the first verse, this idea of Sri Ramakrishna being merged in the truth of non-duality. Advaya, the non-dual, tattva, truth. Samahita, merged in samadhi, merged. Chitta, whose mind was ever merged in the non-dual truth. And yet, Projwala Bhakti, that shining devotion, as a pata Pata is a cloth, the cloth of luminous devotion covering avrita, covering him, as it were. He was, on the one hand, his mind was merged, identified with the non-dual truth, and yet that itself was covered with this glorious veil of devotion. I think we already talked about that. And interestingly, Swami Vivekananda was opposite. We think of him more as a jnani who taught the yogas, especially Jnana Yoga, how he thundered the truths of Vedanta from the pulpit and the classroom all over the America and India. So we think of him, at least the first impression I had of Swami Vivekananda was of a great jnani, a great teacher of jnana. But inside, all devotion. Swami Vivekananda is a tremendous lover of God and a lover of humanity. How much he loved people. Why did he go and struggle to teach Vedanta and to establish his work, his mission in India of service of humanity? Why? That tremendous compassion, that tremendous love. So inside Swami Vivekananda is tremendous love, but covered with a veil, as it were, of jnana. And Sri Ramakrishna was, in a sense, the opposite. He was merged in non-dual truth, but covered with this veil of devotion. Of course, both had this tremendous compassion, no doubt about it. And karma kalevaram adbhuta cheshtam. Adbhuta, amazing, wonderful, cheshtam, activities, deeds, extraordinary activities. Karma kalevara, who's actually, kalevara means body. And karma kalevara, whose in a way, how would you translate that? That his body itself was work. Because he worked so hard. And we think, Sri Ramakrishna, what work did he do? He just sat in his room all the time in samadhi and did some worship. But what work did he do? Actually, he talked and he taught non-stop. And he would go and he would seek out the seekers of God. He would go to Calcutta. Why? Because it was a long distance for them in those days to go all the way to Dakshineshwar. So he would go to Calcutta so that people he could meet the devotees and teach them and spread his message. And he'd call the devotees to come. And a remarkable incident when Swami Vivekananda was telling the life of Buddha to his Western disciples. Sister Nivedita was there, and she notes how Swamiji was describing Buddha on his deathbed. And he was dying. It was the final day. And someone came who had traveled a long distance to meet him. And the disciples wouldn't let him. They said, no, you can't meet him now. He's dying. And Buddha, hearing that, said, no, the Tathagata has come for such as these. And so he instructed them to bring him into his presence. And he taught him. And only after that, he gave up his body. And Sister Nivedita remarks that the most fascinating part of this discussion was when Swami Vivekananda, as an aside, said, I saw this, in the case of my own master also. That in the end of his life, there were just maybe weeks left or days left, and people still were coming, hearing about him, sometimes would come long distances. And Sri Ramakrishna would insist, no, bring him, let me see him. Even on his deathbed, suffering from that throat cancer, which made it very difficult for him to speak, he would teach. And so that's the kind of intense work that he did for all of us. So let's see what this translation here gives. Whose mind was identified with the non-dualistic truth, whose person was wrapped in the cloth of supreme devotion, whose body was work itself, given for the welfare of humanity, and whose deeds were extraordinary. I surrender myself to the Guru, the physician for the malady of relative existence. I don't like that translation. I surrender myself. I seek refuge. I take shelter. That's the idea. I surrender myself, as if I am something and myself is something separate, and I surrender myself. I take shelter. Let's see how this one translates it. Your mind always dwelt on the non-dual truth, but your being was wrapped with the cloth of splendid devotion. You were ever active with amazing actions. O Lord of men, I surrender myself to you, my guru, the physician. Okay, so he's followed the same thing. Let's just adjust it. Otherwise, this is nice, but Oh, Naradeva. You almost can't translate Naradeva, because when we translate it, Lord of Men sounds corny to me. But Naradeva sounds beautiful, sounds glorious. So, oh, Naradeva, I take shelter in you, the world physician. Let me read also his translation of this third verse. It's actually not bad. This was done by Swami. This little book of translations was done by Swami Ācaṇḍālā. You are a wave rising in the ocean of the Divine Mother, the primordial power, and have shown various sports of divine love. You are a sharp weapon to destroy the demon of doubt. And he points out here how all the different shades of devotion Sri Ramakrishna showed, like the different bhavas that we can have, the different attitudes we have for the divine, and how he adopted all of them. Darashita prema vijimbitarangam. So that concludes my going through this sort of line by line, sort of word by word. I hope that this hymn can be an inspiration for you, as it is for me, a tremendous inspiration. And if there are any comments or questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Would you mind just singing the whole thing once?
We're singing the whole thing once more? Yes? Can you bring the harmonium up here? We'll do it with our harmonium. Then it's really sweet. So you have the words with you. So then we can sing it together. How about that? Is that a deal? Okay. And so you have to figure out where to sing it, where it's Gonna take it down one notch more. Okay. Not too close. Ācaṇḍālā pratihātarayo yasya prema pravaho lokatito pyahanajaha lokakalyanamargam त्रैलोक्येऽप्य प्रतिममहिमा जानकी प्राणबन्धो त्रैलोक्येऽप्य प्रतिममहिमा जानकी प्राणबन्धो भक्त्या वृतवरवपुः सीतया हि रामः भक्त्या ज्ञानम् vritavaravapoh sitaya Stabadhikritya pralayakalitam Vahovotham mahantam Itvaratrim prakriti sahaja Anhatamistra Gitam shantam madhuramapi yaha Sinhanadam jagarja Gitam shantam madhuramapi yaha Sinhanadam jagarja Pratita Purusha Ramakrishna Stvedani Soyanjata Pratita Purusha Ramakrishna Stvedani Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Shakti Samudra Samutatarangam Darshita Prema Vijimhitarangam Shakti Samudra Samutatarangam Darshita Prema Vijimhitarangam Samshaya Rakshasana Shamastram Samshaya Rakshasana Shamastram Yami Gurum Sharanam Bhavavaiyam Yami Gurum Sharanam Bhavavaiyam Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Andvaya Tattva Samahita Chittam Projana Bhakti Patavrita Vritam Andvaya Tattva Samahita Chittam Projana Bhakti Patavrita Vritam Karma Kalevaramadbhuta Cheshtam Karma Kalevaramadbhuta Cheshtam Yami Gurum Sharanam Bhavavaiyam Yami Gurum Sharanam Bhavavaiyam Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva So this hymn, also composed by Swami Vivekananda. We have 3 hymns. The 2 hymns we sing every evening after Arati, and also this one. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share it with you. It's one of my favorites. It doesn't get sung that much, but it's a profound hymn of devotion and revealing Swami Vivekananda's inner attitude towards Sri Ramakrishna, and offering us also that attitude. Yami Gurum Sharanam bhavavaidyam. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanam Astu.